Hi everyone, welcome to the show. This is former BlackRock executive Edward Dowd. Listen to what he has to say.
The global debt bubble is at its peak, and it's becoming apparent, given what's going on across the globe, that we're at the end. And due to that fact, we're going to see lots of crazy things in the financial markets. I think we're going to see the credit markets become unhinged, the equity markets become unhinged. The Fed got a reprieve from when they were able to, the cover of print 65% more money to keep this thing afloat. But we're at the end days here. And a lot of what you're seeing in the response from global governments is what I believe is setting up a system to, under the guise of tyranny, to prevent the riots that are going to ensue once this thing all unwinds. That's my personal belief, and I watch what people do, know what they say.
Markets are going to become unhinged, right? There's going to be disruption in the fiat debt system. We're going to see the markets, equity markets, bond markets become unhinged, and we're also seeing them roll out a lot of this digital identity type of platforms, these distributed ledger types of platforms to calm the masses down, right? With all this going on, civil unrest is going to be higher and higher. I mean, if you go to the grocery store and there's no longer food at the grocery store, the people aren't going to like that very much. So this leads me into my next piece, which is Commerce Bank. And if Commerce Bank has written a white paper, and they talk about big data, blockchain technology, Internet of Things, and artificial intelligence to revolutionize trade and supply chain finance. So I'd like to read you this quote. Furthermore, the white paper also explains that DLT and blockchain technology could reduce trade finance operating costs by 50 to 80% and improve the turnaround times 3 to 4-fold. So if we have trade that can improve 3 to 4-fold in turnaround times, think about what that would do for supply chains. Reducing the cost for 50 to 80%. So imagine all these large trade companies, they have a say, right? We're learning that regulatory capture is a term that these regulators are saying, and what that means is the incumbents are closely working with these regulators to make sure everything goes their way. So if they're able to save 50 to 80% as well as turn around 3 to 4-fold, right? And there's these supply chain disruptions, there's not food at the store. I don't see regulators stopping this technology. There's too many benefits that outweigh the negatives. Now, this next piece, the barriers removed could lead to more than US $1 trillion in new trade over the next decade. So right now we're in a financial depression, right? We're in an economic slowdown. The whole globe is in this economic slowdown. Well, financial markets were being pumped up by the Fed and central banks, right? So financial assets were being inflated, but the rest of the economy has slowed down quite a bit. And down here is the link, which I'll put in the description below. But in this white paper, it shows a lot of the usual suspects, right? And we see R3, we see Ethereum, Enterprise Alliance, Consensus, we see TradeLens, which uses Interledger Protocol, a lot of the R3 platforms, and up here we see Finastra, which is Ripple, CGI, which is integrated with Ripple, Temenos, GTC, we see, Trade Shift. We're seeing a lot of the same usual suspects that have been working on this technology. So, it's only a matter of time before the benefits of this tech are realized by nations. Now, this is Gary Gensler. Listen to what he has to say.
It's really our securities. Are you seeing evidence actually there are things being done in this market that would be violations of the securities laws if the securities laws apply?
Well, David, I thank you for inviting me here, and you're right. We do have a broad agenda, and crypto is part of that agenda, but it's an agenda really to make the capital markets work better for the investing public and for the companies on the other side, to drive more efficiency in these markets. As to your question about crypto, the agency is really just looking out for investors. And many of these tokens, I'm not trying to prejudge anyone, but many of these tokens have the attributes of securities. They're raising money from the public, and the public is anticipating profits based upon the efforts of others. And so we've brought a number of actions. We're trying to work with the various crypto platforms, the exchanges, the lending platforms to come in, get registered, find where we can to adjust our rule set to get the investor protection for the public.
As you say, you've encouraged the exchanges to come in and get registered. At the same time, a lot of them have not, as far as I can tell. At what point do you have to force it?
Well, no, it's because, look, if you're a platform and you have 75 or 100 or sometimes 5,000 tokens on that platform, probabilities are that a number of them, and maybe many of them, are what's called a security. And it's Congress painted with a broad brush. And it comes down to this. Are you raising money from the public, and the public's anticipating profits based on the efforts of others? And my predecessor, Chair Clayton, the agency that I'm honored to chair at this point in time, is going to try to pursue investor protection. And if that means bringing greater enforcement actions, we'll do that. But it would be better to have these platforms come in, work with us, and come under the securities laws.
Do you think you've done everything you can under the statutes as they exist now? Do you need legislation in order to really go after and really get registration from those exchanges?
I think that the laws are pretty clear. It's laid out in the 1930s. And we have an ability to work with these exchanges using various authorities to basically tailor some of these, because these crypto exchanges and lending platforms have operated differently than the traditional New York Stock Exchange. But would it be helpful to work with Congress on some things? I've said this in the past around some details around transfer agents and others. Yes, but unless Congress says otherwise, we have to ensure there's investor protection in this space. And we're going to work with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, where there's some that are commodity tokens, because while many of these are securities, some may be under their remit. And we work together as two federal agencies.
Let me turn, Gary, if I could, to a...
All right, so if you notice, when he was asking about the crypto exchanges not coming in, Gary Gensler cuts him off while he's still speaking to say, oh, you've noticed that. the crypto exchanges haven't been coming in. And his whole goal is to take over crypto and have it under the SEC's jurisdiction, right? So he wants you to voluntarily come to the SEC's office and file the proper disclosures and everything, right? So if we listen to what Greg Kidd has said in the past, Greg Kidd says that this is a tactic where they get you to come in, and then so Tony Soprano is very charming. You come in, and then they hit you with fines after you kind of admit all the wrongdoing that you've had, or they just use it against you later down. So no crypto company in their right mind wants to go to the SEC in advance and start showing them all their documents, and then later on the SEC turns around and delivers them a lawsuit, right? So he's saying that they're going to have to do these enforcement actions if people don't come into his office and get registered, right? And that's what we've seen is these enforcement actions. And some of the prior videos that I've showed you, with these enforcement actions, they spread themselves thin, right? They go out and they try to sue all these different crypto companies. Now all those crypto companies are taking up their resources and time, and they're understaffed, right? They can't accommodate all these different lawsuits versus crypto companies. So it becomes a time where Congress has to come in, and that's what he was saying about Congress, and it sounds like they're not going to come in anytime soon. So we're at this point where he's got to start issuing these enforcement actions, and that's what we've been seeing. So I think the more enforcement actions, the more crypto companies that can team up against the SEC. Now, FinTech Modular and Ripple to enable payments into the UK, Europe. And in this article, it talks about modular and RippleNet integration, the Bank of England, how the Bank of England is tied into modular, and they have, they're integrated into the Bank of England, and payments are able to send to the UK with the modular platform, right? But the interesting part that I found was Trust Payments is using this tech, that's Ripple modular tech, and it's Trust Payments continues its disruption in payments with the partnership between Modular and Ripple, delivering a new payments option for settlements. Now, RippleNet, right? The X current model was messaging. It was payment messaging. And, the settlement is the part with XRP. It's the part with ODL. So I found that interesting that they said a new payment option for settlements. So if we look at Trust Payment, right, and we looked at some of their partners' directories, you can see that they have American Express, which is also a RippleNet partner. They are working with the Faster Payments Task Force as well. So down here, it has the Faster Payments Task Force. Investors. This was the one that had the Faster Payments. So this Faster Payments Task Force, they're memberships of Faster Payments Task Force. So they were saying that modular is the UK. If they're connected with Faster Payments Task Force, right, that's the United States. Now, if we go back to the partners, right, they're integrated with Alipay too, WeChat Pay. So they're pretty massive in their integration. So they're able to partner with WeChat, Alipay. So they have connection to China. They have a connection to the United States. They have a connection to the UK. So I found that pretty interesting. And then also they're saying that it's for option for settlements. And R3 has a quarter payments demo. This is on their Vimeo page. Now, the reason why I bring this up is there usually is a lot of blowback whenever I mention R3 and Ripple, right? There was news that R3 integrated XRP into Corda Settler a long time ago, and there's always this idea that R3 Ripple are very separate, and that relationship was broken. I often hear that, but my thing is Corda Payments demo. You can see modular up here, right? So they're also working on a platform with Modular that just announced that they're working with Ripple, right? So how involved is R3 with these projects? I don't specifically know, but this is something to say. Maybe they don't have their ties cut, right? So maybe something is going on here where they're working together. I mean, there's a reason why the time and resources by developers were added to create Corda Settler, which uses XRP as one of its payment options. So it's the option to use XRP with Corda Settler. Now, this is ABK Bank and Ali Bank of Kuwait. So this is the Bank of Kuwait. Now, let me show you what I found with this. So, blockchain Ripple phase 2 completed. XRP blockchain Ripple payment system is used by customers using core systems, mobile banking, and internet banking between branches. Outcomes include resource savings, time saving, faster customer services, and efficiencies. And then here's the next part. Blockchain Ripple XRP implementation, resource saving, and faster customer service. So it's between the Kuwait branch of the ABK Bank and the UAE Bank of ABK. Now, I've never found any announcement that said ABK and ODL, right? So when they're mentioning specifically the XRP blockchain, Ripple payment system is used by customers using core system banking between Kuwait and the UAE branches. Any payment between Kuwait and the UAE and vice versa using KD and AED and vice versa is using the Ripple system, which has a faster execution of time and less charges. Many customers used it, and the core system was able to auto-detect the transactions type incoming in form of various channels. And then it says efficiencies, resource savings, time savings from less than a minute to 2 to 3 hours per transactions once authorized. And it says Ripple and Swift here. what's going on here, right? It seems like, to me, and I mean, this is speculation because they're not exactly telling you exactly what's happening, but it seems like the ABK Kuwait is sending remittances to the UAE using XRP. Now, I don't know that for sure, but it seems weird that they would mention XRP the way that they do if it was just RippleNet messaging. So I found that pretty interesting. KPMG, which is one of the big four in Canada, adds Bitcoin and Ethereum to its corporate treasury. So KPMG has a lot of banking documents. They're one of the big audit firms like Deloitte and Ernst Young and I forget the other one, but they're massive, right? So why is their corporate treasury adding risky crypto assets, right? We're led to believe that crypto is speculative and risky. They're one of the big four. This is a big deal. They're adding crypto to their corporate treasury. So, I found that pretty odd. And it's specifically KPMG in Canada. So, now this is the EU on crypto.
Well, of course, the rate of change in the financial system is quite incredible. And I think COVID has accelerated that because we've many off. Because people needed to be able to do transactions and to do it remotely. And that's been positive because we've got good products and good apps that are doing that. When it comes to regulators around the world, we are very conscious of the need to regulate for the future, not the past. And I do think it's a challenge, but it's one that we can face up to. What we need to see is that the risks that apply in the, if you like, the virtual world have to be regulated the same as those risks apply in the real world of transactions. What we need to do is harness the benefits of innovation. So these are really good innovations that are there, but acknowledge the risks, including for money laundering, for privacy issues. You mentioned, which is interesting, about digital central bank currencies. And of course, the ECB with the Commission are looking at this. We don't expect, an immediate, if you like, decision and a way forward. We have to look at all of the consequences. But clearly, digitalization of the financial system is real, and it will only evolve more rapidly as time goes by. So we are alert to this. In fact, we have just completed, and it will go through the European Parliament and the member states very shortly, 2 pieces of legislation on, cryptocurrencies and on cybersecurity, which is a key issue in this ever digitalization age that we're living in.
All right, so the EU is getting ready for cybersecurity and crypto regulations. It's also a complete difference from what Gary Gensler was saying. We've got 1920s regulations, and she's saying we have to look to the future for regulations and not the past. So what a world of difference. Now, if the world starts giving the green light for crypto assets, I mean, that's just gonna, when crypto is utilized in these other nations, right? That just proves the case against the SEC. So hopefully we start seeing some developments outside of the U.S. Now, this is one of the guys from Aave. Listen to what he has to say.
And I think this is actually why I think newcomers will do this, because they don't have anything to lose. You have a lot to lose, and you need to take this route. And every major innovation like Airbnb, etc., Uber, they pushed into a gray zone, right? But they open new markets, and the US is very good at this, that they're comfortable with a certain amount of gray zone if it's real innovation and it actually opens new markets. And I can totally relate that, yes, if I'm N26, I'm already big, I'm going on this normal fintech route. Incredible risk, right? That I've, added Aave, and then there was someone from North Korea that put money into Aave, and, now everybody, evaded sanctions. That's a massive risk, obviously, that you have when you're big. But we've seen this over and over again, that you have smaller startups, they're willing to take that risk. And then, especially in the US, if overall this seems to be a positive development, this is real innovation, it kind of, they seem to get along with it and push everything forward. And Uber, Airbnb are really, really good examples of that, where, they pushed into sort of a regulatory gray zone, but they created huge new markets, very, very tangible, huge consumer benefits, right? Everybody loved Uber. And they were able to mobilize their user base and say, like, okay, maybe they don't have a taxi license, but I want this. I want to use this. And they got, 50,000 people in every city to say that. So I think that's could be an argument why, you have something like an Argent that's just a startup actually saying, yeah, I don't, it's not a problem for us. We're not a big legacy institution that has a lot to lose in case, the deposit into Aave was, the regulator didn't like it.
So the large crypto platforms have to be very cautious. Like saying the smaller platforms can push the boundaries, right? And he's saying that Uber and Airbnb were against the regulators, and what ended up happening is Uber took out campaigns against the political leaders, and as well as he said, there's 50,000 people that signed in every city to allow Uber to happen. Now, this is what kind of John Deaton's doing with Connect to Congress, and I mean, it took me less than a minute to fill out the form. So if you haven't gone to John Deaton's website, Connect to Congress, I'll add a link in the description below. It's well worth a half a minute just to fill out your name and email the officials. Now, also he has one for if you're outside of the U.S., you can also sign one as an international investor that was hurt by the SEC's action. So, I strongly recommend everyone just spend the 30 seconds, even if you think that this is all planned or however you think about it. It's worth the 30 seconds of time and effort, in my opinion. Now, this is Hester Peirce. Listen to what she has to say.
See anything on the docket in the way of new rules or regulations from the SEC this year. But I do want to ask you about stablecoins because the Biden administration, while tasking Congress to come up with a brand new framework to regulate stablecoins, has also asked regulators to look at using their current authorities to regulate them. Would the SEC consider looking at regulating stablecoins akin to money market funds, or perhaps mandating some sort of disclosure and liquidity requirements?
I think it depends on what the stablecoin looks like, and they aren't all designed the same way. And so I can imagine that we might look at some of them and say they have securities-like features or money market-like features, but it really is it's a facts and circumstances analysis, and it's something that has to be done on a through a one-by-one process. I think, again, we need to be looking at what the objectives we're trying to achieve are, and shoving something into an existing regulatory regime may not be the best way to achieve those objectives.
Commissioner Peirce, what's it going to take for the SEC to approve a physical Bitcoin, a spot futures Bitcoin ETF?
Well, so we've painted ourselves into a difficult corner because we keep coming back and denying these spot Bitcoin applications, and we do it based on the fact that we think that there's a problem with the underlying markets, the problem being that they're not regulated the same way that our equity markets are regulated. And that's true for many things underlying exchange-traded products that trade in our markets. So we're applying a crypto-specific framework here in denying these products. So, my suspicion is that that it's going to take seeing the Bitcoin markets regulated just the way our equity markets are regulated before one of these things gets approved. But we'll see. I've expressed dismay now for 4 years that we're applying this crypto-specific standard.
And Commissioner, NFTs have absolutely exploded. They are now.
All right, so. We've seen recent enforcement actions against Gemini, against Celsius, against Voyager, right? And I'm getting reports that people are getting tax forms like they would if they were on a stock exchange from the crypto exchanges. So it sounds like that they have this crypto-specific law for spot Bitcoin, right? And it's not true for the other commodities, right? Like a gold's exchange or something to that nature wouldn't have the same exact exchange requirements as a securities exchange, yet that's what they're pushing for. So I'm wondering with everybody that's receiving these tax forms, like as if they were on a stock exchange, getting them from crypto exchanges, if they have something worked out for a spot ETF for Bitcoin. So I hope you guys enjoyed this show. Please tell me what you think in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. And if you're interested, I have a Patreon. So I hope you enjoyed. Thanks, everyone.